everybody. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, it's great to be with you guys today. I am joining you from a remote location in Colorado near the New Mexico border, where I'm currently doing a turnaround for a tourism project that is an economic driver for two communities down here and in New Mexico. So, bear with my fake facade, but I could absolutely show you my dingy office real background if you so desire. So anyway, let's get rolling here. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat as well, as you guys can sort of provide feedback along the way, and we'll get through this presentation. So let me figure out the presentation to see if indeed I can share it with audio. And let's see here, window, audio, and let's go. Allow. All right, somebody's going to have to give me a little bit of heads up if when we get to an audio file, it doesn't play. I'll pause and ask the question when we get there. So I guess we'll just jump right in here. So first, again, thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure. It was really nice participating in the last event that was held, and it was good to meet people in person. This is a great venue because I know it allows a lot of other people to join in and provide reach to those individuals that are across the world. So anyway, let's jump in. This is something I touched on earlier this year, and again at another conference, sort of in the summer months. It's how do we picture and anticipate what the future is going to hold? That's a tall order, I know, but I give it my best in terms of research and talking to operators and entrepreneurs and investment groups to figure out what they're looking at, what I'm looking at, and see if there's correlation and see if we can really, put some meat behind the assumptions that we're making here. So that's what we're going to do here today. I'm going to walk you through, sort of my view of the world in 15 years, and it's going to be expanded a little bit from the prior presentation I've done because there's new things that happen that either prove or disprove some of the assumptions. So let's get rolling. And I saw somebody's question about the Airbnb fee. We'll get there as well. I would like to afford some time at the end for some Q&A, and we can always take calls and chats offline as well. But anyway, so let's get into this here. I'm gonna sort of, this is a little bit about me. I know you guys may be in one of the groups or have sort of heard me talk or interacted on social media or something like that. But I've done a lot in the space, been in it in the short-term rental space for, oh my gosh, yeah, 20 years. And before that, sort of a career in hotel tech, et cetera. So this has been very fun for me, jumping into an emerging category, short-term rentals, which we used to call it vacation rentals. So let's roll into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of the forces of change that we're likely observing today. We're going to look at some of the strategies for succeeding, in the light of the changes and innovation that we're seeing. We're also going to take a look at what that all looks like in 15 years from now. So let's get rolling here. So we're at a critical juncture. I imagine that all of you have likely investigated or heard of or read a news piece about sort of the regulatory environment, maybe over the last 6, 7, 10 months around geopolitical pressure and headwinds around the increased competition that we're facing in markets that become saturated, and then so that's forcing us to make some decisions on what path do we take going forward. And we're going to talk about some of that here. There's a lot of options for us. So some of what I'm following is the emergence and or reemergence, if you will, on some new business models. We've seen subscription travel take hold in certain isolated areas. We've seen co-living take hold in some areas. Personal destination clubs, curated trips, and curated destination clubs are certainly becoming a thing. I don't need to really probably say much on the regulation and competition thing. I just alluded to that, but it's, I'm sure, squarely in our own face every single day we wake up. I read probably 30 plus articles every morning when I try to pick out content that I believe will matter to those reading in the vacation rental professionals group on LinkedIn. So I see it every day, and it's a barrage every single day. So traveler preference is also changing in front of us. Whether you've noticed it or seen it or acknowledged it yet, we will talk about that in a little bit more detail where personalization and the whole bleisure thing and digital nomad thing and sustainability, they're all important to guests depending on the demographic and psychographic. We will talk about the difference in using pure demographics these days versus psychographics and combinations of. So we'll talk about that. And then technology. Technology underpins kind of everything we do. I've seen some overdo it. I've seen some underdo it, and there's some that have sort of really nailed the recipe well. And we're going to talk about some of the ingredients that might make a great combination for you guys. All right. So some of the new business models we talked about fractional ownership a little bit in terms of the emerging things. Fractional ownership is not new. It's been around for a long time. One of the companies that was in the holding group that I worked with, we owned RCI, and we worked with fractional clubs and timeshare projects and everything in between. So fractional has been there, but these are really fractional ownership programs where you get a collection of people or you get a company that's creating a platform who is making that platform available for those that own homes that just want to swap it out and change it with another owner's property. And sort of, I'm actually pursuing supporting one of the companies that's coming out with that. It's called Truster. They're taking the trust issue and applying it to this trade and swapping concept to make it more viable for folks to really trust who's going to be in your home while you're in. I call it mutually assured destruction. Won't say that too often. We've got co-living spaces. We've got subscription travel, as I mentioned. And here's some made-up word, leisure. So basically, if you think about the immersive nature of experiences, it's either you're there in person or whether you're getting to a location through immersive technology. Our goal these days is seeking experiences versus just staying in a place or going to a place. And I want to share a little bit more with you on that here in a minute. All right. Again, I'm not going to stand here because I know we see this every day, but there are some things that we can do, and I've seen it work where understand the regulations in your market. By the way, if there's no regulations, pursue it yourself because I worry more about no regulations than I do a good, clear regulatory framework. And if there's not one, work with your county, city politicians to suggest a framework that works to support the short-term rental industry and the activity that we do, along with what you collectively will believe is the right thing for the community as well. Get out there and sort of meet the politicians as well. Make sure if you haven't done a town council meeting or a chamber of commerce meeting or go to a county commissioners meeting, go and meet the folks because building these relationships now will matter, uh, if not now, in the future. And then we're going to talk about standardization. So, all of this stuff, is there a standard approach that communities, states, countries, counties can agree on? Right now, that's a no. Everybody's still feeling their way through to try to figure it out, and it ebb and flows. So you usually see this overreaction, that you get a pullback based on the economic impacts of these regulations. So keep an eye on that. Get involved. It's going to take all of us to get through that. And competition. I don't know if I can. I probably can't see, but I imagine if I asked a show of hands whether you have more competitors now than 5 years ago, you'd probably raise your hand. And some of you who are newer, you might have come in at a moment where you might be at the plateau where you don't necessarily see new, but keep an eye on and keep a check on the number of units in your market to make sure that the demand isn't exceeding, isn't isn't sort of under demanding the amount of supply in the market to make sure you've got a good solid business going in the future. We've seen major consolidation, both in the tech space, property management space. We've seen the, the the sort of acquisitions in Europe, the acquisitions and/or sort of unlisting from big companies here in the United States who have tens of thousands of units. So there's a lot of consolidation going on, and then you get this unwind effect where once the consolidation is rationalized, there may be assets in there that don't make sense for the new program or new pursuit, and they'll be eventually sort of spun out on their own. And we're seeing some of that as well. And new ecosystems are emerging as well. I'm not sure if you guys follow the midterm rental space, but the same equivalent of those existing in the short-term rental space and the hotel space, by the way, from a distribution ecosystem, are now forming in the midterm rental space, which most of you if not all of you, could capitalize on midterm if it makes sense for you, if you're seeing an opportunity and a hole in your calendars consistently. So we'll go into that too. All right, so here's sort of the evolving traveler and their expectations. We got digital natives. By the way, that's folks that have basically they were born with the existence of smartphones, tablets, computers, and it is just innate. It's what they do. It's how they do it. So we've got to be prepared for them to sort of live their life and take our experiences with them. We've got the digital nomads, as we've seen a huge ramp up since sort of the COVID pandemic, and experience seekers. Experience seekers are now, as we've seen Airbnb double down, and I watch other OTAs trying to rationalize and figure out a way to get in more to the experiential space. But that's usually supply they don't have handy. So everybody's having to grow their marketplaces more to find relevant experiences for their guests to consume. And personalization, told you we are going to get into it. So it's everything from pre-arrival, as we probably all do today, AI-driven customization. Some may be doing it, some may not. I believe it's going to be a requirement in the not too distant future, if it's not today, because we typically have constrained organizations, constrained human resources as well. So it's important to leverage AI where AI is capable of supporting you. And then the whole tailored experiences is, look for and design unique experiences. And actually, what I'm doing with this tourism destination here is we're basically creating new experiences for guests from all over the world that have a reasonable size, total addressable market. There's proof that there's a demand for it, and so we're baking those up. We're putting them on the store shelves, tracking the adoption into purchases, running them, and then we'll refine them after we run them to see how they did, and we adjust accordingly. And then we get into hyper personalization. I'm not sure about you guys, but I know my wife does the whole Amazon Palm scan at Whole Foods. I'm not doing that yet. But if you think about what we begin to expect, it's what other commercial operations and businesses provide for us. So if Whole Foods is doing that, are we going to be more comfortable doing that? Let's say at a rental check-in, or getting your keys, or gaining access. So we've got to make sure that we're keeping up with the times here to make sure that we can understand all the data that we have, collect as much as we can about our guests, and using that to the betterment of the guest experience. It'll certainly come back around for us to help us understand how we reach those profiled sort of consumers, but let's at least use it for the betterment of the experience for the guests. AI concierge, we talked about a little bit, dynamic customization. This is where there's units that are being made today that can be customized literally based on walls, folding walls, and things like that, that can be customized per a guest's desires and needs. So that's super interesting, and that is beginning to. You're seeing more and more examples of that every day, and then basically the seamless experience. So make sure your tech works from a guest facing technology perspective. Let's make sure it works for you, works for your guests, and gives them extra value. My goal for technology is it to add value, add ROI, add something, right? Then keeping things the same, because that's typically why people don't move, is because things stay the same. They typically have a desire and need to keep up with a trend, a consumer desire and need, and obviously competition evolves as well. All right, talked a little bit about AI. I'm sure there's people here on the panels today to talk about AI, so I'm not here to really overdo it. But I did want to sort of reiterate its importance, and the LLMs that are emerging that will allow us to gain knowledge beyond our typical reading of a book or reading of 10 reports. I'm using it in today's project to gather all the historical documents, from their pricing to their experiences to their staffing to their demographics and psychographics of consumers, putting on all the information of the available assets the organization has, and then it's helping me understand what the capacity capabilities are of existing components and assets, and then what could we pursue with that, and then when we bump into a wall where there's or lack thereof, then we go out and find them and partner by what we need to do to deliver what we're promising to deliver. So all this is really reiterating sort of what we've talked about in the last couple of slides. You know, so this last bit here, smarter business strategies, dynamic pricing. It's not really. optional anymore. Look, there has some. I think I read a report last week that some markets are, well, they're claiming they're suffering because of dynamic pricing. Well, that might be dynamic pricing with your blinders on, which is probably never a good thing. But I would suggest looking at it if you haven't and seeing how it can benefit your organization. I put this little thing in here, singularity, which is really where, well, cat's out of the bag or genie's out of the bottle. But then when can this technology keep up and or surpass where we are as lay humans? So it could be very interesting, and as early as next year, or later. All right. I raised this because I firmly believe, because I worked with the university to help develop new programs to entice students to take their classes, to join their university, and I learned a lot. What I learned by collaborating with Meta, collaborating with NASA, collaborating with all kinds of organizations that are at scale, that they were trying to find ways to train, initially train teams, and then it quickly became, how do we extend a consumer or a would-be consumer's insight by using this technology? Meaning, how can we get them more excited about what we're selling by using this if they're adopters of this technology? And soon, the whole the phones of the world and all that, we're likely going to glasses and watches and things like that. But think about how customers may want to use this tech to shop for your product. And I'm going to show you some examples of this, but you know, uh, virtual tours. I know Matterport's been out there for a while. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about capabilities that our phones have today. So let's keep on cruising here, and somebody will have to keep me honest on time because I'm going to cook through it. Augmented reality, you know that what that is. It's overlaying digital information in a real world environment. Here's some examples. This is a uh, it's an example of taking your phone and moving around a unit. And I'm going to keep on trucking. And then I'm going to talk about fly throughs. This is again with your phone. It's technology that allows you to make sort of motion picture quality videos of your unit and the experience. It informs customers really what you have. Okay, so all right, now one of my favorite topics is robots. This Neo Gamma, the one I'm showing you here, which I've sped up the video, is an early generation, meaning last year, of a consumer product that is in homes being tested as we speak. And you can see in this accelerated video, what it can do for a family, for a guest, for a homeowner. There is a new sheriff in town also, and it's figure '03. This is taking it to a much deeper level with better movements, and it's pretty amazing what they're doing. Right, so that's figure. So this brings us really towards looking at the 15 years from now, and this may be an understatement because I think a lot of these things, where the robots right now, let's call it 30 grand. 5 years from now, we're probably at 3 to 5 grand, and many homes will begin to adopt them. Think about, how we use housekeeping resources today or maintenance resources today, and I know those resources are scarce depending on where you're at in the world, but it's pretty interesting to see what opportunities there might be in the future for tailoring the guest experience even more so, and having real time help and support right in the home itself. So you're going to have to be a little bit more tolerant of tech if you're going to do this, and certainly your guests would be as well. All right, this is just the new reality. Consumers are evolving their preferences, industry challenges, innovation of new possibilities. Technology is driving a lot of the automation, obviously. So all this is coming out to really provide some great platforms and sort of chances for us to do better, maybe better with less, and again satisfy the guest in their pursuit of a stay. So this is sort of reiterating some of the things we talked about: space adaptation, autonomous arrivals, AI welcomes, and then we've got fluid and flexible stays. Again, the modular spaces that we talked about, connected spaces, rental passports. Sort of like think about the TSAs of the world, where we currently run background checks and things like that. Or is there a world where we can be validated or vetted as a consumer, by, dare we say, Airbnb or Booking or Verbo, so we don't have to do that work. It's being done at the ecosystem level, so we can be certain of who the folks are coming into our properties. And then we build partnerships. This is my man. If I could say this a million times in the next 2 seconds, I would build partnerships, not just with your local community competitors, but with your technology providers, with service providers. Find a way to make it a win-win-win for everybody, because there usually is a way to make that happen. Stay fluid, stay adaptive, right? You don't. My whole being is curious. I'm curious critter, and that's helped me stay attuned to some of the trends that are happening, even when they're not yet seen by the not even percolating in the public. So it takes a bit of time to keep your ear to the grindstone here, to listen for signals, to continue to talk to people and businesses and see how they're evolving and see how I might be aligned or not aligned, and then helping, frankly, a lot of my clients become aligned with where guests are going to be before they get there. And again, focus on the guest, no brainer, and embrace tech. Okay, I think I talked about the build partnerships. Good. Let's get through here. Adapt and innovate. I talked about, so guys. Some of us are like, I work with clients all the time who are shy about technology, and that's okay. But don't let that hold you back from leveraging your team, your partners, your friends, even to share ideas and opportunities with you and try things. We'll all fail a little bit. That's okay. Sort of how we innovate, but do try to leverage the technology that's out there that makes sense. Don't over invest, because it's easy to do that, and I see that often. Make sure you get the right combination of things to support your company. And then here we are again. So I'm going to scooch on right on through this. And then the action that we can take today is, basically evaluate where you're at. Look at your system solutions, your tech stack, your partnerships, all the things, and see what might be a gap in there that you believe can help you today or help you in the future. And plan. I mean, literally, guys, I hope you guys all have a 3 to 5 year plan that's backed by some stats and some research on your market, on the psychographic, demographic nature of those guests you have, how you can grow them into more frequent stays and so forth, and implement, right? Iterate, fail, iterate, succeed, still iterate. Make sure you can continue to fine tune what you're doing. And sort of this is like one of the, yeah, I guess, anchors here. Regardless of the negative sentiment that we're seeing on the regulatory front, on the market saturation front, and all the headwinds that we feel as business owners, there is a bright light here that the genie has been let out of the bottle for short-term rentals. We're not going to go back, right? So hotels used to be the thing, and they're still there, right? They're trying to figure out how to be relevant in the world of short-term rentals, and they'll find ways. Adopt tech, as we've talked about here. Try to automate. I do have a theory on fully autonomous PMSs in the not too distant future. Lots of meanings to that. And then grow your revenue. Take a step forward, put a stake in the ground, and say, I'm going to reach that within a reasonable period of time, and do it, and then recast and redo it. So that's how you grow. And essentially, the future is ours to create. It's sort of a no-brainer, but it is something that we do have the power to create our own destiny, as long as we have the right partnerships and the right solutions around us. So that is my deal. I hope it was helpful. This is the way I look at the world, guys. And anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, happy to field them, but I think I might be over time. Any questions? Let's see here.
Eric, you do have some questions. Great job. I love that. I think this is so relevant for us. And And you could just tell in the comments section here how engaged everybody is and how important this is if you're, to get on the train or you're going to be left behind, right?
Yeah.
So Stacy Thorne has a question for you.
Yeah.
Stacy's question, Eric, is what are the phone video and fly-through apps?
Yeah. So there's many out there, right? So I've used Luma for the fly through. I think they now have their own app called Fly Through. You've got and so some of the apps that are on your phone and eight and an iPhone, for example. I'm not sure about Android, but you can do your own by grabbing like the gimbals that you can attach your phone to and walk through the property. And some of these tools help you stitch that together. I also use now these are things that you don't have to use because your phone can do some of this stuff. I also use 360 cameras to walk through a property. I do this at conferences too. If you ever, track any of my stuff, I'll walk through a conference, share it so people can see who's there. But think about that, right? I mean, this is the bittersweet pill, and I've heard from folks on both sides where they're like, I don't necessarily want the guests to see all of that. Well, you got to make that decision for yourself. And but if you have a property that shows well holistically, you can use technology like that, stitch it together through their apps, and put that out there. I believe the OTAs and the not too distant future, I believe they're going to be forced to do this, where they're going to have to figure out how to enable this kind of content so that the property managers and owners can deploy it on their listings and certainly on their website. So there is some innovation that's going to happen around that.
For sure. Love that. Um, Felicity Stevens asked, do you think, Eric, we will see guests arriving with their own robot, or do you think they were going to want us to provide it?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So I think there's a real thing here, right? Because these things are portable, they're mobile, they can go with you. I mean, that could happen. That's the first time I've had that question asked, but why not, right? If you could just get a two bedroom versus a one bedroom and have your robot stay somewhere else there, although they stand up in a charging port. But yeah, you never look. I mean, this is what keeps my mind going because if you collectively put together robots and you know that AI is on board, it's feeding them, it's educating them, they're learning. This is where the whole singularity things gets to be really interesting, and for some maybe scary.
Yeah, for sure. I Do you think, like, I mean, you know how we do like the whole like, we're launching a new property, we're checking it, we're researching this market, and we're checking to see what amenities are offered by this host versus that host kind of thing, and what amenities drive ROI. Do you think there's something there with the robot, with like
I think so.
I provide you a robot versus the guy that doesn't provide you the robot?
There will be. I mean, this is sort of a natural. It'll be an amenity or it'll be a feature of the property. It depends on the type of property you've got, but I mean, I'd love to have a robot, do my dishes and serve me coffee or whatever.
100%.
And look, they're designed to be helpful for the human race, right? So they're meant to be additive.
Yeah.
Now, how this all matures and rolls out, the videos I showed you are real use cases of them being used in homes. Each company that has produced these robots, there's many other robot producers. I know Tesla's got their own fleet of robots they're working on. But there'll be many opportunities, many brands, and with different skill sets and capability.
Yeah, I told my wife we'll definitely get one as long as he's not more handsome than I am.
Right.
Uh, All right, I have another question for you. So I just started reading this book, The AI Driven Leader. Have you read this?
I've not.
Okay, so I'm still on chapter 3. It's very early. Um, I thought this was just going to educate me on how to use AI, which it is. By the way, I'm already in just 2.5 chapters. I'm already using it way more effectively and strategically than I ever have. But it's more than an AI book, and I want everybody on this call to or on this here live to note this book, the AI driven leader. It's teaching about leadership, the new leadership, and it's akin to like, and Eric, you could probably relate to this, I'm sure. Like when the cotton industry left America, everybody thought, well, what the heck are we going to do now? Right.
Right.
And right now, everybody's so afraid of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be removed. I'm going to be replaced and all this. And it's not that. You're going to be enhanced. Or
That's right.
yes, you will be replaced if you don't take it on. If you don't get with the times. If you don't. Does that
Yeah,
feel right
no,
to
no,
you?
no, for sure. Yeah, look, I did an AI. So we started a little AI company, 3 years ago for universities, purely trying to solve the advisor issue that universities have, whereby they have too few, they have to operate too many systems, they're not available to the students, and it caused attrition, and that's very expensive for universities. So we were using it fundamentally to try to solve a problem. But yes, and it can be used in any business that you've got. I use it with all of my clients. Many of them have yet to use it, but we get into it. I describe why it's important, and then we wade into the pool together, and they become super excited pretty dang quickly when you show how it can actually be applied to your business, not cause this massive churn that everybody believes is going to happen, but enhance the resources they've got. So
Yep.
yes, and look, I know there was the Amazon announcement earlier this week about their layoffs. Some of them they're indicating they're trying to remove bureaucracy and streamline service and stuff like that. They did indicate AI was a part of that, but at the end of the day, we're humans, right? We're going to still be humans, and we're still going to want to interact with humans. Some of us, uh, and so yeah, I'm not as worried about the taking all of our jobs thing because economies would flinch over that anyway. So that's going to be a hard road, but yeah, it's going to have profound impacts and for us in our business.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Well, I that's all the questions we have. I guess what I'll do is I'll kind of count down to 30 seconds here and see if we've got anything else for you, Eric. Second time I've sat through this, I'm grateful for you. Thank you. You know, although you're first, this by the end of this may be the most relevant conversation I think that we're all going to be having because, like I said, I mean, everything else that you learn from here on for the rest of the conference, guys, I think what's so important is bring it back to this session. Everything that you do strategically moving forward, everything that you do in your business, no matter what it's going to be, bring it back to this. I think this
Yeah.
is so, so, so important. So,
And
uh,
well, good. I hope it opened our minds up for the rest of the sessions, and I look forward to seeing everybody engage here.
grateful for you, my man.
Good to be here. Thanks,
Have an,
everybody.
have an amazing night and day.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Bye bye.